Today on the news and why it matters, we've got your Democratic presidential debate analysis, whether you like it or not, by the way. And we'll also tell you how George Zimmerman is tied to two of the Democratic presidential candidates. Yeah, I know. You're wondering to yourself, what are you talking about? Well, you got to stay tuned and find out, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by the one and only Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, the man himself. Thank you, Jason. Republican Party state chair candidate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here.
You're my honor, always.
Always a pleasure to have you.
I love it when you lower your standards and you let me.
Please. We just wait for your schedule to open so you can pencil us in. We've got Jason Butchell, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, and the Blaze.com's own Aaron Colin. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Okay, did everyone actually watch the debate?
I did. It was pretty good.
Jason's not answering.
I did not. I watched highlights.
But you watched the highlights.
How I do these.
It's really, honestly, all you need.
Who can sit through that? I don't know.
I mean, I did.
And I did.
Right.
You know.
And
I got the second half because I was in a debate myself last night. So I had to, I got home as soon as I could, and I got the last hour, which...
How was your debate?
Well, I think it was good for me, not the other guy.
Well, that's all we care about here. So, of course, the Democratic presidential debate was last night in Nevada. I apparently got some complaints that I say Nevada, okay, for make all of you happy in Nevada, which sounds very foreign to me. So I just want to give just a really good, all-encompassing, general video clip of about how the entire night went, all wrapped up into a couple seconds. Watch.
The Affordable Care Act, not blow it up.
Let me just. I will. You name check three of them. Let me get Senator Sanders in there. You were.
Okay.
Go ahead, Senator Sanders. Okay. We'll get you in, Miss. All right. We got a lot of people in here that we got hit. It's my turn. Yep. Yes, sir.
That was about, if you missed it, you didn't watch it, that was about it.
That looked like the Saturday Night Live parody version of it. Like you couldn't tell the difference.
It was embarrassing to watch. Okay, and before we get into, because I want to get, gentlemen, your thoughts on these kind of highlights, these bigger moments from the specific candidates. But do you remember 2016 being that much of a train wreck for the Republicans? Because I don't, and I'm wondering if I just am forgetting.
No, it really wasn't. And I don't think that you saw those debates being so out of control. As a matter of fact, I remember the Fox News and the Fox Business Channel debates and how people really lauded them for that as opposed to the CNBC debates. But last night, I mean, none of those six individuals on that stage showed anybody in America why they can be the president of the United States of America, unless you're delusional.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are some of those people out there. But Jason, what do you think?
It's surprising, too, because if you think about it, I think a lot of them probably like each other a lot more than what they would actually lead on to. During the 2016 GOP debate, there was actual hatred on that stage. I mean, there was a lot of accusations flown between a bunch of them, a lot of nicknames, a lot of name-calling, and I don't remember seeing, and I actually wanted them to get a little bit more fired up, but instead they kind of backed down. The thing that I would love to see at some of these debates, especially some of the GOP debates, would be actual talk about policy for a change. Actually, why you believe in some of these things. That's why I don't even watch these debates anymore. You don't even really hear about it. Those questions are softball. I mean, every time Bernie says Scandinavia, the moderators go, okay, please tell us, how are your policies just like Scandinavia? We're waiting. And as soon as he says something stupid, then you counter with, well, that's not, you're never going to see that unless they'd all decide to go on Fox News. Maybe they might get some of these questions, but it ain't going to happen on MSNBC.
You can see why they've spent so much time being nice to each other, because when they finally start to try to go at each other, everybody looks terrible. I mean, nobody came out of that debate looking strong. Bernie, he kind of coasted because people were so focused on Bloomberg, but everybody kind of just made themselves look worse, and it's bad for the party overall, and good for us.
And so, to your point, everybody did focus on Mike Bloomberg, who, of course, it was his first time appearing on the debate stage. I think he was a little rusty.
Russ is a warm-up debate. Give him a minute.
This wasn't a practice round. I'm not sure if he was aware this was not a practice round. This was an actual debate. But let's look at just a couple of the moments where Mike Bloomberg was criticized. The first one from, Elizabeth Warren criticized him several times and hit him real hard. But the first one, let's see Elizabeth Warren criticizing Mike Bloomberg being on stage and saying, you know what, if we are talking about Bloomberg, we're basically talking about Trump. What are we going to exchange one billionaire for another? Watch.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Democrats are not going to win if we have a nominee who has a history of hiding his tax returns, of harassing women, and of supporting racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. Look, I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is, but understand this. Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another.
Now, I do want to get your thoughts on that, but let me throw into the equation also Bernie Sanders, who was arguing that billionaires like Bloomberg, obviously, he says the billionaires don't pay taxes, they pay way less than the middle class, and Bloomberg, he had a couple shots fired back at the other contenders. This was, I guess, you could consider one of them.
Billionaires today, if you can believe it, have an effective tax rate lower than the middle class. So
Senator,
maybe
you're
just
the tax code. Why are you complaining? Who wrote the code?
You did. You and your campaign. You and your not me. You and your campaign contributions electing people who represent the wealthy and the powerful.
Yes,
those are
like
the
Democrats. Thank you.
Well, and Republicans too.
Now, I want to save what I think was Bloomberg's best and probably only really just mic drop moment of the night for last. But Colonel, what did you think of Warren's strategy of just going all out against Bloomberg for basically everything? Because there were some other moments where she didn't just call him out for saying the horse-faced lesbian comment. She also called him out for his non-disclosure agreements that he had with women who worked for his company.
Well, I think the important thing that they tried to do was to savage him and show that this is not the person that we want to have as our standard bearer. And when you really think about it, Michael Bloomberg is just sitting back and thinking that I can do what I did in Virginia. I can buy this thing and I can show that I'm the only reasonable person out of these other 5 that can go up against Donald Trump. And I can prevent these other people from getting the delegates that is necessary so that they have a front runner going into the convention. And then it has to go over to the superdelegates. And guess what? I will probably buy off the superdelegates and then I become the nominee. But he is not what they want. He cannot be the face of the Democrat Party. He is everything that they are against. He is a older man, white man, rich. He is an elitist. And in 2008, he didn't even vote for Barack Obama. When he was the mayor of New York City, he was a Republican. Yeah. So I don't think that they're going to select him. And I think that's what Elizabeth Warren wanted to do, just completely make him null and void.
Yeah. Jason, what do you think?
I mean, it's smart for Warren because this line of attack fits perfectly into her entire campaign.
Is it though? Because, okay, so I agree, like it did something, but did it do something for her?
I think it did.
Okay.
I think it did. In the short term. I think generally debates are kind of small potatoes as far as when you look at the long run. And we've seen that in this debate. We saw Kamala Harris rise from that one thing against Biden. And all of a sudden she was going to be the next nominee. And then she was done in about, 2 weeks or something like that. And these things just happen like that. But I think it's smart because it fits her it fits her entire thing on this campaign trail, which is it's kind of like if you've seen the movie Tin Cup, where they were criticizing Don Johnson. He was like, he hates kids, he hates babies, and he's a horrible person. So that's basically her attack on everyone. Hates women, he hates minorities, and he hates these people, and he's a racist, and blah, blah, blah. And he would fire me if I was pregnant, just like my boss back in school or whatever. That's her entire shtick, man. I mean, that's really all she has. But it's just glorious to me to sit back and kind of watch them all at the smorgasbord, but eating each other instead of the food in the middle. And I think that, Donald Trump definitely benefits the most, not Elizabeth Warren. Donald Trump benefits the most. And if you look at that dumpster fire, if your strongest candidate is Elizabeth Warren, which is what, 4th down in the standings or something like that. She's the one you're holding up as the winner of this thing. And you have the billionaire who finally everyone saw, oh my gosh, after all his YouTube videos. You can't even watch YouTube without his slick little video coming up.
Which, by the way, we apologize for all of you who are watching on YouTube and had to watch that before the show started.
And you no doubt did.
Yes.
But he looks like the slick guy, like the slick politician. Like, oh, I could, yeah, you know, he's a with it, you know, businessman. I could vote for that guy. Then you see the guy in real life. That's who he is, and he is not electable. I am sorry, none of them are.
For Warren, it's kind of she looked good taking those cheap shots against Bloomberg. It's easy, low-hanging fruit for her. But she's really just doing Bernie's work for him because she needs to separate herself from Bernie. Yeah. She doesn't really need to concern herself with Bloomberg, so she can take him down, and all that does is let Bernie sit there and just kind of cruise along at the top of the polls. Yeah. So she got her moments, but she's still going to be in single digits somewhere, and what's that going to do for her campaign? She might get a little fundraising boost, which she needs, but I don't think it's going to boost her ultimately in the primaries.
See, and that's where I was too, was that really all it did was allow the path for Bernie to kind of come out of this debate
it's like she's running
relatively
unscathed.
Really.
Well, that's kind of like, you know, the movie Ricky Bobby, and his buddy, you know, would always, I forget his name, but he would always clear the path for him, you know, and then Ricky Bobby would go on to victory. And so shake and bake. So I think that's kind of what Warren was doing. But the real loser on that stage, I think, is Joe Biden. Because the day after, we're not talking about Joe Biden.
No one is. Wow.
No one is talking about Joe Biden.
He's fighting for attention out there.
He's fighting for attention, and I don't think he's going to do well in South Carolina, so I think he's gone. You know, Pete Buttigieg tried to, you know, get into a back and forth with Amy Klobuchar. She kind of looked okay, but again, I think that Bernie comes out on top. He will probably win the caucus in Nevada, and it's going to send, you know, James Carville and the rest of the Democrats into another unhinged, apoplectic rage.
If Warren had come at Bernie throughout this primary like she came at Bloomberg, she might be doing a lot better, but she was so hesitant to be seen as mean or angry, so she played nice all this time, and now she's at the bottom. But if she had been that candidate the whole time, I think she'd be a lot more of a contender.
Well, or, I mean, you look at the strategy of making sure that the person you're attacking is someone you can peel votes away from, right? Like the Bloomberg voters, right? The Bloomberg voters are not people who are going to vote for Elizabeth Warren, so you're not really doing anything by going negative on Bloomberg and then not arguing for yourself. So it was an odd play by Warren. I do think that it did damage Bloomberg, though.
Along your lines, I think that secretly someone said, who's going to go after him? It's kind of like how, you know, you sat back and you saw Chris Christie take down Rubio. Someone said, okay, all right, you know, hey, Trump to Christie, take care of this guy for me. And I think someone said, Elizabeth, why don't you take care of him? Because she was really the hunter. On Bloomberg last night.
More debate analysis to come. But first, according to Yahoo Finance, the global superfood market will grow by $200 billion from 2019 to 2023. Experts agree that eating superfoods is the easiest way to get nutrient-dense foods because apparently a lot of you out there don't actually like vegetables. Who knew? Especially you men over here, all right?
I follow the Popeye thing. I eat my spinach.
Okay, all right. That's good. That's good. Spinach is good for you. So the trick, if you are one of many who you just don't like to eat vegetables, you're not going to do it. The trick is finding a product with the best quality ingredients, no extracts, and the USDA seal. That is why we trust Field of Greens from Brickhouse Nutrition. You get 1 scoop of Field of Greens, and it has a full serving of real USDA certified organic fruits and vegetables. So it helps you with immunity, reduces your risk of heart disease. It's prebiotic, probiotic. It's a great source of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. You don't have to make, you know, your wife's nagging you at the dinner table. Finish your asparagus, honey. Finish your zucchini. You're like, all right, I got it. I'm just going to take Field of Greens after dinner, so no more nagging required. It tastes delicious as well, by the way. We have it at my house. My husband has been known to drink it before we go to bed because he's like, I didn't eat any vegetables today. I think I'm going to drink some. You got to try it. Go to BrickHouseBlaze.com. Use promo code BLAZE. You will get 15% off of your first order. And also, if you sign up for a recurring subscription, you'll save that extra $10 every single month. BrickHouseBlaze.com. That is BrickHouseBlaze.com. Offer code BLAZE. We are not done discussing the Democratic debate last night. So I said I was going to save Michael Bloomberg's, I think, his really only solid good moment, only because everyone has been dying to hear Bernie's answer to this. Save that for last. So Michael Bloomberg actually not the moderators, not any journalists, not any reporters have really held Bernie's feet to the fire when it comes to asking him, hey, you know, you say that all of the rich people should pay their fair share and they should, you know, be penalized. How come you own 3 houses? Michael Bloomberg, the only person who dared ask him that. Here's how that exchange went.
Mayor Bloomberg, would you like the question was about socialism.
What a wonderful country we have. The best-known socialist in the country happens to be a millionaire with 3 houses. What I miss here?
Well, you'll miss that I work in Washington, House 1.
That's the first problem.
Live in Burlington, House 2.
That's good.
And like thousands of other Vermonters, I do have a summer camp. Forgive me for that.
But
Where's
Yeah.
tax?
Right.
Which
Just like
tax
everybody
haven
else.
do you have your home?
New York City, thank you very much, and I pay all my taxes.
What a commoner. The commoner, Bernie Sanders. But I mean, who among us doesn't have a summer camp?
Don't you? Darn, man.
I mean, but he was visibly
He was upset.
angry.
But see, that's the thing. Bernie Sanders is not used to being challenged.
Yeah.
And that's the setup. I mean, if he is the guy at the top of the ticket and he's talking about taking from everyone else, and he did not talk about the Audi sports car he drives, it's over for him. How can you justify going after everyone else when you have a lake home? When you have a wife that bankrupted a university because of her, you know, Ponzi scheme that she ran. So he's going to get a lot of questions.
Yeah. And I mean, Jason, it is refreshing, right, to see someone who finally is calling Bernie out on his hypocrisy. You know, you mentioned the Audi sports car. And how about the all of the private jet trips that he's making to go to his campaign events? But he's telling us all about climate change and how we shouldn't be flying.
It's refreshing to see. We finally, I mean, I expected that big time from and standby pay-per-view for when Bernie and President Trump go at it, because that's what you expect to see from him, just rattling them off nonstop. You're going to get that nonstop. But we haven't gotten that because, you know, Bloomberg's got that, you know, I guess I'll just say it this way, screw you money.
Yeah.
He's had it for so long, he really don't care. And President Trump is the exact same way. So you're finally getting that. I'm still, I liked it. It was great to see someone call him out on his hypocrisy. I would still just love to see someone ask him, could you tell us what the heck a democratic socialist really is? Could you actually define that? I'm waiting for someone to ask that. I really wish they would.
Does he actually call himself a democratic socialist, though? Because last I heard him, he said, I am a socialist, right? Has he changed that? Has he modified that to say, I am a democratic socialist? Or are other people assigning that to him?
I've heard him.
He's changed it.
Yeah, well, I've heard him. Someone asked him what about democratic socialism, and he went straight to, I think, Denmark, as he usually does, which is straight up false.
Right.
But the problem is no one's educated on it enough to actually challenge him on it. That's what I want to see in a debate. So more than just a one-liner, even though I love the one-liners, I would love to see someone challenge him on that. But I think the party, the people that are actually standing up there behind the podiums, I think they're scared to, because they don't know the next, 4 to 8 years of what their party is even going to look like.
Right.
Is it going to be labeled DSA, or is it still going to be labeled Democrat? You know, they're kind of, they don't want to come out and like really go after it because they might be out of a job in a few years.
It's funny, candidates have been complaining about using Republican talking points. They've been accusing each other of that throughout these debates. And now we finally got somebody on the stage that will actually say some of the things that we've been saying about them. And I think he plays a valuable role on that stage because he doesn't care. He doesn't value any relationships with them. He's not trying to protect any sort of Senate political relationships. He's just going to say what he believes, and that's what you're going to see him do to Bernie. And so they have a motivation to get him off there quick because he's the only one that's going to call Bernie out on something like this. You could hear how the crowd was not in Bloomberg's favor there, like they're booing and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, he doesn't have the home field advantage, but he's going to keep saying what he's going to say.
Well, he made them uncomfortable because, you know, he went after, you know, their little socialist icon. You know, I'm just waiting for someone to also say, you know, Mr. Sanders, when did you first get a job? I mean, the guy didn't have a job until he was 40 or 41, and that was as mayor. So what did you do all of this time? I mean, you're going to be in charge of one of the largest economies of the world, and you never created a job. You never done anything. You sat in Washington, D.C. You haven't created any legislation or anything like that. Like I said, Jason, that's the tough questions that are coming that he's going to fold like a daggum cheap chair.
He's how long has he been there? And I think he's only helped co-sponsor like 3 or 4 pieces of legislation. That's it, an entire career. So basically, he's just sat there, collected his check, and That's about it.
That's it.
That's what he's done with your tax dollars.
I want to get back to the audience's response that you guys just touched on. Whenever Bloomberg and Bernie were going back and forth on capitalism versus communism, Bloomberg said throwing out capitalism is going to get Trump reelected because we already know that communism doesn't work. Want to get, gentlemen, your thoughts on the audience's reaction to Bloomberg's statements.
I can't think of ways that would make it easier for Donald Trump to get reelected than listening to this conversation. It's ridiculous. We're not going to throw out capitalism. We tried that. Other countries tried that. It was called communism, and it just didn't work.
So let me make a proposal.
It's like you said a cuss word. Like it's just, oh no, don't say that. Whoa.
Yeah, don't go there.
So I will say I saw this in the media being portrayed as, well, the audience booed whenever Bloomberg said communism didn't work, but there were a lot of cheers when he said,
you can't throw out capitalism.
Right.
Yeah, they realized that. I mean, where was that debate held?
Nevada.
Nevada, in Las Vegas. Okay, what do you think happens in Las Vegas? People that have...
I don't know, it stays there.
Okay, from my research.
Okay.
But people who have money or people that have saved money go there and they spend money. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, if you're going to have this socialist economic model where you're the ones that are deciding, how much money a person can have, a place like Las Vegas dries up. A place like Reno dries up. And so what are you talking about here? If you want to throw this thing out, and I think that's what some people understand, but again, they don't want to hear the C word. They don't want to hear the S word. And so that's the education process that we need, and then what you guys have to continue to do. You're a little bit younger than I am. We discussed that off camera. But,
just a little bit.
But that's what we have to do, is educate people on this thing called socialism, wealth redistribution, nationalizing economic production, and it doesn't work. You think it works? Look at what used to be one of the most prosperous nations in our hemisphere, Venezuela, and where it is today.
Jason?
Yeah, I think educating the public, I don't think the majority of the people probably even in that room, depending on age limit, but especially if they were probably under 30, don't even know what real communism or even socialism is. Mm-hmm. They really don't. It's frightening. You ask them what socialism is, and they'll tell you exactly what the leaders in DSA now are telling you. Oh, like Scandinavia, like Sweden, all that stuff. No, that's nothing to do with socialism. And I'm like, well, neither does Bernie Sanders. I'm like, what do you call nationalizing an entire industry? Mm-hmm. That's socialism. That's what they're planning to do with healthcare. And they're like, oh, no, it's not. They literally don't know.
Mm-hmm. You can see how the candidates are scared to attack this. Like, some of those candidates up there believe in capitalism, but they're scared to really go after Bernie Sanders and socialism because they're scared of the backlash from that segment of the party. And so they're still trying to kind of toe the line to where we can win over those people later. But that crowd reaction kind of shows you that maybe there is, if somebody would just be bold about a capitalistic vision for the Democratic Party, then maybe they could get more support. But they're so scared that they're just kind of trying to play the fence.
Yeah. Colonel, you mentioned Joe Biden earlier and how he just really was irrelevant this entire debate. There was one moment where he was a little bit relevant, but it wasn't for the reason that he probably wanted to be relevant much.
I'm running because so many people
Yeah.
Please give us a moment. We'll clear the room and let
And of course, it was hard to make out, but they were yelling, "We don't want you here. You deported 3 million people and no kids in cages." Oh, that's awkward for Joe Biden.
Yeah, that kind of hurts. I mean, but again, this is their base. Their base wants open borders. Mm-hmm. Their base wants to decriminalize, illegal entry into this country. And so what does their base want? I mean, they're running for someone to be president of what? Not the United States of America, not a sovereign nation. And so again, I think that they're setting themselves up for an incredible failure, because I don't think anyone wants to see America just end up being a place in between Mexico and Canada. That's what they're promoting. That's what they're advocating.
Interesting to hear them say no kids in cages, because that's the very first
Right.
time I've heard them even acknowledge that this didn't start
Joe
another-
Biden.
Yeah, and you can actually take this even further back to Democrat Jesus and Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
because he and Janet Reno, that's actually where it started.
No offense, Jesus.
No offense.
He took offense.
I'm getting struck by lightning. But that's where it started. So it started with the Democrats. It was made worse under President Obama. And the only one that really do anything about it was Donald Trump. But they're complaining about it as if it's just a Republican, 2020 Republican issue. I mean, absolutely insane. But I either they really know and they're just, playing ignorant, just as a tactic. But that's interesting to hear.
These candidates, they're protecting each other so much that all these things that we're hearing from Bloomberg or protesters, we should have been hearing from them if they're actually competing against one another. But again, they're protecting themselves in these debates and, protecting their relationships. And so Joe Biden, he can just kind of wait till they leave the room, and then he'll never hear about this again throughout the rest of this debate, because nobody wants to acknowledge what their party has done in the past, because they're trying to move forward and make sure that's only a Republican thing. And so they'll cover that up.
Yeah.
I'm just the last thing on that is I'm so surprised, because you've heard me on the show a lot. I expected this from Joe Biden the entire time, because if I was instructing him, which is probably a good thing I didn't, but I'd be like, look, don't say anything. Right. Just sit there and try not to fall asleep, and you're going to run away with this nomination.
Right.
I mean, everybody up there is a socialist or who's that person? A mayor of who? Where? But he is done. He is done. And I was wrong.
You were, because he came on the
wrong.
show many times and said Joe Biden's going to coast to this nomination. Well, of course, you did say all he has to do is just, you said he could fall asleep on stage and he would still coast to the nomination, which maybe in hindsight is what he should have done.
Yeah, well, because I had more faith than I should have in the left right now. I thought they weren't that far gone, but I have no faith in them whatsoever after this.
Coming up, we will tell you how George Zimmerman is tied to two of the presidential candidates on the Democratic side. But first, wouldn't it be nice if search engines and social media sites were just, unbiased platforms that didn't choose a side politically? Yeah, I know, in our dreams. In 2016, the tech elites at Google, they bragged about donating millions of dollars to Hillary, and these are the same big tech companies that push their political agenda and restrict the free speech rights of conservatives, and we're trusting them to handle our personal data online. That's really not a match made in heaven. I don't know about you, but I don't want them using my web history, my email metadata, or my video searches against me, and I'm not searching anything gross. That is why we use ExpressVPN every time we go online. These big tech companies can match your internet activity to your identity or location using your IP address. But when you use ExpressVPN, these tech companies cannot see your IP address at all. Your identity is masked and anonymized by a secure VPN server, and they encrypt 100% of your data to keep you safe from hackers and internet bad guys. This is not complicated, all right? ExpressVPN software takes just a minute. You set it up on your computer or your phone, you tap a button, and you are protected. You don't have to worry about these big tech companies coming after you. Your internet data belongs to you and not the tech elites. You've got to protect your online activity today, and find out how you can get 3 free months at expressvpn.com/Y. That is expressvpn.com/Y for 3 months free with a 1-year package. expressvpn.com/Y. George Zimmerman, the one-time neighborhood watch volunteer who was, of course, acquitted in 2010 in the shooting death of Trayvon Martin in Florida, is now suing Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg for $265 million, claiming both of these presidential candidates defamed him in an attempt to, quote, garner votes in the black community. He used 2 separate tweets that the two of them had made on February 5th, which would have been Trayvon Martin's 25th birthday. And he said, let's see, Pete Buttigieg's tweet, just to read them, just for context here. It said, Trayvon Martin would have been 25 today. How many 25th birthdays have been stolen from us by white supremacy, gun violence, prejudice, and fear? Hashtag Black Lives Matter. And then Warren tweeted on the same day, my heart goes out to Sabrina Fulton and Trayvon's family and friends. He should still be with us today. We need to end gun violence and racism, and we need to build a world where all of our children, especially young black boys, can grow up safe and free. The lawsuit, of course, argues that Warren and Buttigieg falsely tied Martin's death to, quote, gun violence, a term that more appropriately describes the reckless and indiscriminate use of illegally owned firearms. And it also claims that Zimmerman acted out of racism or white supremacy, that these people are accusing him, kind of implying that he was acting out of racism or white supremacy when he shot Martin, even though he was acquitted. I just feel like George Zimmerman probably should just go live his life.
Yeah, you know,
stay out of the news.
Without
maybe?
a doubt, stay in this hole. But I will give him credit for this by bringing this out. You know, where is Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg when it comes to the fact that since Roe versus Wade, 20 million black babies have been murdered in the womb? They never even got to see their first birthday. Where are they when you talk about all of the gun violence that is happening in Chicago, in Detroit, in Baltimore, and wherever? You know, those lives obviously don't matter. And so what you see happening here are two people that know South Carolina is coming up. And they're trying to play to a crowd down in South Carolina to get a vote to say, see, you know, you know, if I had a son, you know, he'd look like Trayvon Martin. And so I think this is despicable, what they did with the tweets that they put out. And again, this is a great opportunity for us to call out their hypocrisy. You know, unfortunately, George Zimmerman, you know, brought it out there. He should stay away. But this is what we should be talking about, how they are trying to pander to the black community when it's their policies that have destroyed the black community, destroyed the family, everything. You know, President Trump gave that little 9-year-old girl an opportunity scholarship right there on the spot at State Union address. What was the response of the Democrats there?
Sat on their hands.
Yeah.
And my story.
Jason?
Good. I'm glad. I'm surprised.
I want it to come from someone other than George Zimmerman, though.
Sure, yeah. Agreed. But there has to be a consequence for publicly calling people racist. I'm sick of it. There's got to be a consequence. There's a case right now in the NFL, and I don't remember the names. I should. But it's a defensive lineman for the Cleveland Browns and the quarterback for the Steelers. Do you remember when?
Oh, yeah, the helmet is, yeah.
Miles Garrett and Mason Rudolph.
Yes, thank you. So he, of course, teacher's pet. I need to have all the
Hey, man, I'm helping you out. Come on.
That's right. Thanks a lot. But he, so.
Wow, that was some white supremacy directed
Really
at
was.
you.
Right, Zimmerman, relax.
But there was a debate. But Miles Garrett said that he did that because the other guy called him the N-word. That's what he was like, and it came out after that. But the problem is, nobody can confirm that. There's no audio. Both players on both sides of the team were like, as far as we're concerned, that didn't even happen. So it sounds like he's completely making up. Now, there's the debate on, okay, if you find out the guy that made the accusation is wrong, what do you do? If you find out the guy that the accusation was in against, what do you do? Everyone was all on, if the guy said that, he should be fired, and maybe even worse, who knows, whatever would happen to him. But for the other, like, you know, maybe suspend him for a couple games. No, it's got to be consistent. And that's the problem. There is no consistency on here. There's no consequence.
Like Jesse Smollett.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, maybe there might be some consequence on that one. But there's got to be a consequence for this, or it's going to get worse.
Not just for politicians and football players and all of that, but for journalists, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously those tweets are very pandering. They don't care about Trayvon Martin at all. They have no care about him. I'm sure they haven't called his mother and tried to comfort her or done anything for her. I'm so sick of George Zimmerman. I wish he would go away. I'm not happy that he is suing. Even if he has a point, he does have a point about what they're doing.
Right.
But come on, he's just trying to chase fame. He's trying to get his notoriety. He needs to go away. He got off with whatever happened, whatever you think about that. So just, go live your life. Don't chase money. He's got another lawsuit related to this case. And so he's just suing left and right, trying to get paid off this thing. And that's kind of gross in my opinion. But you're right, politically, Warren and Buttigieg, they're trying to pander for black votes. And so we don't need that. I'm not sure if they should be sued for that, but it's fine to get it called out. It
is interesting, though, Colonel brought up the 9-year-old who was given the scholarship by President Trump. And that is called pandering. But it's like, President Trump has not just done that. Under President Trump, we've seen the lowest minority unemployment numbers. We have all of these records that are good for minorities under President Trump. So he's got the action to back it up. Yet these people sent out a tweet
Yeah,
right?
that's
They
the
send
thing.
out a tweet, and that's not pandering. That's genuine.
Doing something for somebody is not pandering. That's doing something for
Right.
somebody. Pandering is just showing a sign of support that means nothing. That
Well, they used
has
a
no
hashtag,
connection to it.
Aaron.
Oh, sorry, they did. Oh, my bad. Never mind. Never
Hashtag.
mind.
So obviously it was a big deal.
Like if
They
they were
trending. You never know.
if they were doing something for Trayvon Martin's family, I'd be like, oh, that's nice, because I'm not going to be against helping people. But if you're just sending a tweet on a day because somebody told you that he would have been 25, that's pandering because there's
is.
nothing behind it.
But the thing is that their ideological agenda is not about minorities being successful. Their ideological agenda is about making sure they maintain an economic plantation.
Yes.
So that when you saw the president recognize a 100-year-old Tuskegee Airman, they did not find anything good about that. When you saw the president recognizing a black veteran who PTSD, came off of drug addiction because of the opportunity zones, now he's turned his life around, got his family back. They did not care anything about that. So they are the ones that are trying to define pandering based upon their ideological agenda. If you are enabling minorities in the United States of America, that's pandering to them because you're defeating them in every single way, shape, form, and fashion, and you're exposing them as well. So we've got to prevent them from being able to define the narrative out there.
Yeah. Back in a minute. Amen. The anti-gun control, I'm sorry, let me try this again. The gun control organization, Everytown for Gun Safety, has just said that it plans to spend $8 million in an electoral effort focused on state legislature and congressional races in Texas, of all places. So according to a corresponding memo about its plans, it's going to put resources into 27 different House district races trying to oust gun lobby-backed candidates or re-elect pro-gun control candidates with a big focus on Dallas and Houston suburbs. They say that they're just nine seats short of a pro-gun control majority. So they are going after, just to name a few, they're going after, let's see, Dan Crenshaw, Chip Roy, Michael McCall, John Carter, and they plan to defend 2 Democratic seats held by Lizzie Fletcher and Colin Allred, who, of course, is a Democratic socialist. This $8 million that they're spending, by the way, is just part of its overall $60 million investment in the 2020 election cycle. No one better to talk about Texas politics than you, Colonel. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Everytown investing all of this money in Texas? Will they be successful?
Well, no. And full disclosure, I'm a life member of the National Rifle Association, also a board member of the National Rifle Association, also life member of the Texas State Rifle Association. If that's what the Democrats want to do, they have just lost Texas. If you're going to come in and think that you're going to replicate what Michael Bloomberg did in flipping the State House and the State Senate in Virginia, we saw the response of the people up there in January the 20th of this year. You're not going to get anywhere close. And so people will come out and not even be concerned about, well, is this person more conservative or more of a liberal Republican? They're going to come out and say, this is all about me being able to maintain my Second Amendment rights here. It's not going to be successful. So I think that they have just given the people here in the state of Texas an easy layup because the way to socialist tyranny, every single nation has stopped and they have banned private gun ownership. Because that's the only way you take people from being a citizen and make them into a subject. And so that's not going to happen in the state of Texas. So that's $8 million that they're going to waste. They could just give it to me. And, I could invest.
You take really good care of it?
I take really good care of it. But again, I think that they operate in an echo chamber. And I think that's what we've been talking about in this debate, how they talk to each other. But they're not out there and they don't understand that this is a very sensitive issue. And you have Democrats that are not going to go for a gun control agenda in Texas, okay? And think about what is going on our border, where you have folks that are willy-nilly coming across the Rio Grande, and you're going to tell folks that they're not going to be able to defend themselves, they're not going to be able to have a weapon to prevent some, drug lord from coming in and forcing them to allow folks to come to their property. Nah, it's a losing issue.
To Colonel's point, I mean, if they're seeing what's happening in Virginia, surely they don't think that they could, be successful in Texas. I get it. They were successful in, making sure that all of the chambers are now Democrat, but you see, as he pointed out, the resistance of the people when they try to jam all of this gun legislation down their throats.
Democrats have been so reckless, I think, over the past couple of years. If you just go back to Kavanaugh, go back to Russiagate, all this other stuff, I think it's going to cost. I'm predicting a huge victory in 2020 because of a lot of these things, but especially like in places like Virginia. I think they lose it in the next election because if you look at the map, there's small pockets you can tell in just exactly what you read. They're targeting certain elections and small little areas to give them this minor majority. And it doesn't represent the entire state. If you look at the map in the state, there's these small little pockets you can tell they targeted.
Pockets of blue.
And then everything else is overwhelmingly a sanctuary county. It's overwhelming. You do that I don't think Texans are that stupid, so I think it'll get trounced here. But Virginia Democrats, enjoy it while you got it, because you've got now just a few more months to hang on to those jobs. I think they're going to lose that. I think that it's very possible because of all this stuff we make gains and we probably might end up getting the House back.
Yeah. Beto, they didn't learn from Beto's mistake.
It strikes me as really arrogant to think they can just come in here and like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change it with all this money. All that's going to do is pour fuel on the fire for people to turn out and vote against it because of Virginia, because we've seen that happen. Now it's not even going to get that far because people are saying, okay, we're just going to prevent it up front. And so we don't even have to worry about demonstrations after the fact. We're just going to kill it up front, on election day, and then that'll be it. And so I don't understand why they think that can work. It just seems a little bit politically, arrogant and ignorant to think that this can work here. But if they want to do it, that's fine.
Well, there's that echo chamber.
It's that echo chamber that they're in.
Mentioned. All right, back in a minute.
And they tried this in the...
Only got a couple minutes left, but before we get to the poll, want to get your thoughts on this. So Whitney Houston, of course, died in February of 2012, but the Houston estate is using the singer's likeness as a hologram, and it's going on tour. So the Whitney Houston hologram tour kicks off on February 25th in the UK, where the hologram will perform some of Whitney's classic hits. So that is, there's video of it. She is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and we can't play the song just because it's for copyright reasons. But
this is literally a Black Mirror episode.
It is, right?
The last season.
It's
exactly
so
like this.
creepy. Okay, so I'm not the only one who's creeped out by this.
I think most people are.
Who's going to go see this?
I'm not.
We can listen to the songs ourselves. We don't need to see a hologram of a dead person performing. It feels wrong in a lot of ways just to even it feels so exploitive to just like.
So what's next? Kobe Bryant, winning the slam dunk contest?
Right. It's just bizarre. I mean, I felt that way when, what was Carrie, what's her name from the Star Wars movies?
Oh yeah, Carrie Fisher.
Yes. I was like, oh, this feels weird because I know she's dead, but she's in the movie. Yeah. It just feels yuck.
This is not the first one. I think they were doing this with Prince. I think Tupac had one at Coachella a while back. Like they do these holograms and they make all this money off somebody who has passed away. It's just
It just feels weird. Yesterday's poll, which 2020 Democrat will say the craziest thing at the Democratic debate? Joe Biden won, although I'm not sure if he said the craziest thing. I don't know if I could pick who did, but Joe Biden won for 45%, followed by Bernie Sanders, 25%, Elizabeth Warren, 24%, and Pete Buttigieg, 6%. I don't know, did any of them say anything?
Bernie Sanders, when he opens his mouth, he
everything's
says
crazy.
everything's
automatically.
I guess my bar is already really low when I think
I
about
believe
Bernie.
He said he wasn't a communist,
crazy.
so that qualifies.
Yeah. That's a great point. That is a great point. I don't know why Bloomberg wasn't included on this poll, and maybe instead of Buttigieg. But Buttigieg did speak Spanish. Which
the return
is
of Spanish. It's been a while.
Kiss of death,
Cory
though.
Booker and Beto have been
I said that's the white boy Spanish-speaking curse that you're done now because Beto tried that. It didn't work.
You mean Robert Francis?
Sorry, Robert Francis O'Rourke tried that. It didn't work. Cory Booker tried Robert Francis's.
You know about Spanish and Jersey.
Yeah, it didn't work for him either. Today's poll, who won last night's debate? Mike Bloomberg, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or Joe Biden? I don't like this because there's not an option for President Trump. And I think President Trump and America won last night's debate. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think President Trump sitting back saying, come on, keep going, have more debates.
Yeah, you guys agree?
No debate has made it more clear how easy of a road he should have if he takes care of business.
But actually winning it, I'd have to give it to Warren.
Really?
Just for the.
No.
She needed to make a statement, and she did. I don't think it helps her any, but I think she.
No.